People talk about World War III like it starts with a speech, a declaration, or a button. It doesn't. World wars don't begin with ambition, they begin with commitment. A local problem, a response nobody can walk back from, and a system that doesn't know how to slow itself down. So today, we're not asking who starts World War III, we're asking where it would start and why it wouldn't stay there.
If Putin got his way, Ukraine under the boot of Russian occupation, NATO would have to substantially increase its military presence along the eastern flank. And allies would have to go much further and faster on defence spending and production. We would long for the days when 3.5% of GDP on core defence was enough. But if we deliver on our commitments, this is a tragedy we can prevent.
So, this could start off as NATO versus Russia, but it could end up as Europe versus Russia. You don't know if NATO's going to hold up or not yet.
The Russian colours held aloft amidst the ruins of another Ukrainian village. Footage released by Russia purporting to show the latest frontline settlement to have been captured in the Zaporizhia region. But this is land being chipped away, a grinding reality which shows no sign of abating. Europe fears that Trump could abandon the continent entirely, meaning Mark Rutte, head of the geopolitical kids table, must be seen to praise the bilateral big man diplomacy of the person that he once called daddy, while also finding a way to keep Ukraine in the fight.
Peace talks are ongoing. That's good, but at the same time we have to make sure that whilst they take place, and we are not sure when they will end, that Ukraine is in the strongest possible position.
Lots of chat surrounding this one, and everybody's searching for an off-ramp, really, I think.
To keep the fight going, to fight back against the Russians, but also in the strongest possible position when peace.
This is the one everyone expects. And because of that, it's also the most managed. The danger here isn't intent, it's interpretation. NATO escalates slowly and publicly. Russia escalates asymmetrically and ambiguously. A missile that lands a mile too far. A drone that crosses the wrong border. A radar misread. Right at the wrong moment. The problem is Article 5 once invoked, hesitation stops being an option. Not because leaders want war, but because alliances don't survive half measures. This isn't a flashpoint because someone wants escalation. It's one because nobody wants to be seen to be backing down. And that pattern repeats everywhere. Lots of propaganda in this one, including something we've probably not seen before, which is AI propaganda, okay? Let's get into it. Iran, America.
The U.S. is surging firepower to the Middle East as President Trump pressures Iran.
You know, we have a tremendous force going there, just like we did in Venezuela.
One thing's for sure, Trump is never short of things to say, is he? Or something to put on his social media.
Even bigger.
It's a playbook Trump has used before, but Iran is very different from Venezuela. Even after its 12-day war with Israel in June, Tehran still has thousands of mid- and short-range missiles that it could fire at U.S. bases and allies. And it could try to disrupt shipping traffic in the Gulf, which could severely impact the global oil market.
I'm not sure you can reach a deal with these guys, but we're going to try to find out.
So here's how the U.S. is positioning its forces and preparing for potential Iranian retaliation. First, there's a fleet of warships, or
Loads of hardware when it comes to America, always on display.
Or what Trump refers to as the Armada.
There's another beautiful armada floating beautifully toward Iran right now.
So far, the U.S. has 12 warships in the region. That includes the USS Abraham Lincoln aircraft carrier, which is traveling with 3 guided missile destroyers in the northern Arabian Sea. The Navy has additional destroyers in the Strait of Hormuz, the northern Red Sea, and in the eastern Mediterranean. It also has 3 littoral combat ships in the Persian Gulf. And submarines are likely nearby as well, though their locations are highly classified.
You bet your hat. You bet your hat there's submarines close by.
I would remind the Iranian regime that the president has many options at his disposal, aside from diplomacy, as the commander-in-chief of the most powerful military in the history of the world.
Iran has released an AI-generated video as part of its psychological warfare campaign. The video shows a Fatah hypersonic missile hitting the USS Abraham Lincoln.
There we go. So PSYOPs playing its part. Well, just playing its part.
The Iranian missile is shown cleaving the aircraft carrier in two.
I mean, that's as impressive as it gets from Iran, because they've got nothing else they can show off, have they? Right. That don't start with uniforms either. It starts with plausible deniability. Iran doesn't want it to escalate directly. It escalates through proxies. The US doesn't respond to geography. It responds to attribution. Once Washington publicly attributes an attack to Tehran, restraint collapses. Because at that point, it's no longer about the strike. It's about credibility, and credibility is expensive. This is how local actions become global consequences. Let's have a butchers at Israel. Well, Israel versus the whole region.
We now know that Hamas is threatening to execute an Israeli civilian hostage every time that an airstrike hits Gaza civilians in their homes.
I've said it before, but you need a brain the size of a small planet to even start contemplating this one.
Without warning.
We didn't want this war. It was forced upon us in the most brutal and savage way. But though Israel didn't start this war, Israel will finish it. Once the Jewish people were stateless. Once the Jewish people were defenseless. No longer. Hamas will understand that by attacking us, they've made a mistake of historic proportions.
This one affects so many people, it's unbelievable.
We will exact a price that will be remembered by them and Israel's other enemies for decades to come. The savage attacks that Hamas perpetrated against innocent Israelis are mind-boggling, slaughtering families in their homes, massacring hundreds of young people at an outdoor festival, kidnapping scores of women, children, and elderly, even Holocaust survivors.
Thank you for joining us. In a major escalation and violation of the U.S.-brokered ceasefire, Israel has killed at least 20 Palestinians in attacks across Gaza on Wednesday. Israeli drones and fighter jets are filling the skies over Gaza City and Khan Yunis.
Both sides of the story on this are so fueled with hatred, it's hard to ever see any end to this at all.
Making movement on the ground increasingly dangerous. Artillery shelling has been reported in Khan Yunis and at least 2 neighborhoods in Gaza City. Israel has continued its attacks despite the truce agreement that came into force in October.
Right, this one's hard, and I've been there, trust me, okay? This is the most emotionally charged theatre on the planet. And emotion shortens decision-making. Israel's security doctrine is preemptive. Delay is seen as danger. Regional actors are constrained internally. They can't afford to look passive, so escalation here isn't always strategic. Sometimes it's political survival. This is where outside powers get dragged in, not to win, but to stop collapse. And stopping collapse, well, it's rarely clean, is it? Right, India versus Pakistan. This is the one that's sort of like, this could just creep up on you. And boom, it's off. It's on. It's on like Don Juan.
Today on 10th May, at the time of Alhamdulillah.
Both of these countries, by the way, have got some serious clobber.
Nare Allah.
10 मई 05 AM F1 का फायर
Loads of emotion in this one, loads. This is a strange one, and you shouldn't underestimate it, because this isn't about ambition, it's about compression. Both sides are nuclear armed, aren't they? Both have doctrines designed for speed. Missile flight times, well, they're proper short. Decision windows, even shorter. Attribution happens before verification. Once escalation begins, walking it back becomes politically impossible. This is the only rivalry on the list where escalation isn't gradual. It's panic-driven. And panic, that's no strategy. Up next then, China versus Taiwan.
Now, the American President Donald Trump is preparing to visit China in April. However, a new deal could derail Trump's travel plans. A new report by the Financial Times has said that Xi Jinping has warned Trump against selling weapons to Taiwan. If the US goes ahead with a new weapons package for the self-governed island, Trump's China visit might get cancelled. The US has also unveiled an arms package for Taiwan worth more than $11 billion in December. But reports say that Washington is already working on another package for Taipei. The new tranche would reportedly include some Patriot air defense systems and NASAMS, which are surface-to-air missiles that are also used for air defense. Now, other weapon systems are also reportedly part of the new arms package, but their details haven't been revealed yet. And the deal is expected to be worth anywhere from $11 to $20 billion.
See the amount of money changing hands on this one as well, can't you? That's a lot of dough, isn't it?
Beijing is pressuring Washington to halt any new deal, with the threat of cancelling Trump's April visit.
President Xi Jinping emphasized that the Taiwan question is the most important issue in China-US relations. Taiwan is China's territory. China must safeguard its own sovereignty and territorial integrity, and will never allow Taiwan to be separated from the motherland.
It's no secret that Taiwan is in a precarious position. As far back as 2013,
Precarious can also mean sometimes strategic.
It's found that China had 3 times as many helicopters, more than 4 times as many battleships, 8 times as many fighter jets, 10 times as many tanks, more than 15 times as many submarines, and an overwhelming number of missiles. It's safe to say that that gap is even wider today. China's been preparing to take over Taiwan, so Taiwan's been working with the US on a new strategy, named after a prickly animal. Instead of trying to match China's high-tech weapons, Taiwan's stockpiling huge quantities of small defensive weapons. The hope is that they will make Taiwan too prickly to swallow. And there's even evidence it could work. The Ukrainian military has proven that drones, mines, and handheld weapons can be effective at stopping much larger, more high-tech conventional militaries.
Amazing how it's deemed that the battlefield is changing so much. The tactics invariably change as well.
Well, Taiwan's military is simulating its response to a possible Chinese invasion of the self-governing island. And it follows Chinese war games that have been staged around Taiwan. China sees the island as a breakaway province.
Taiwan's military is showing off its combat readiness ahead of the Lunar New Year holidays. A show of force meant to reassure the public.
Again, lots of sabre rattling, lots of shows of strength, lots of capability demos, all that sort of stuff. It's heating up, isn't it? It's heating up.
These drills may be routine, but the threat Taiwan is facing is constantly evolving. China has been stepping up its pressure on the self-ruled democracy it claims as part of its territory.
The enemy threats we face today are clearly more serious than they were 10 years ago. We must accelerate our military build-up and preparedness.
Right, this is the one that wouldn't look like a war at first. There wouldn't be an invasion on the beaches. There'd be no declarations or a blockade. It would be an exercise that doesn't end. Trade routes quietly closed. China prefers fait accompli. The US is trapped by credibility, not territory. Once shipping lanes close, neutrality evaporates. Markets react alliances harden, everybody chooses a side. And once that happens, it's no longer regional, is it? Right, stop panicking. Let's have a butcher's at something here. None of these start with someone wanting a world war. They start with systems that don't know how to stop. Everyone believes they're acting defensively, and that's how escalation hides in plain sight. So, who starts World War III? Probably no one. And that's the problem, because when everybody believes they're reacting rather than choosing, escalation doesn't feel like escalation until it's too late. The real question isn't who fires first, it's who can stop second. And right now, that answer isn't too comforting, is it? Listen, where do you think it would start? And where do you think it would finish? And who would be involved? You must have loads to put in those comments below. So go on, get them in there.